Thank you all for coming out tonight. Please take a silent roll call. So we have Councilman Johnson and the Vice Mayor are not with us, but we have a quorum. And let's see, who's going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Who did I ask? Mr. Nimsky, please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you, John. And tonight, the wireless mic isn't working, so if anyone comes up to speak, you'll have a seat next to Kristen. We'll speak at this microphone right here. So first item on the agenda is the consent agenda. So all items listed here under are considered to be routine by the town council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be discussed separately. Item number 1, approval of the May 6, 2025 Town Council regular meeting minutes. Item number 2, approval of check register report May 2025. Item 3, approval of combined trial balance all funds April 30th to 2025. And that's it. We have 3 items on the consent agenda. Any comments? Anything? Well, anyone would like to remove an item from the consent agenda? So hearing none, I would accept a motion to approve items 1, 2, and 3 on the consent agenda.
Motion to approve items 1, 2, and 3 on the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. Item number 4, current events. So we have summertime current events kind of dwindle down, but we have a few things. We have Carefree Conversations, June 11th, 9 to 11 in the either the visitor center or at least in the pavilion by the farmers market. And council members Sheila Amorosa and Clint Miller will join me for that one. That's on June 11th. And we have some construction coming up. So we have on Cave Creek Road some lane restrictions from the 9th of June to the 12th of June. So this will take place on Cave Creek Road east of Pima to Milky Way. This is work being done by the water company. So eastbound traffic will be shifted to the north, so there'll be one lane in each direction. And so we just suggest that you be extra careful during that time because there's the folks coming out of Desert Mountain. We have our own residents coming, and just be careful. And what they're doing there is some water line work and some fire hydrant construction. And then another item, as you might remember, probably 6 to 9 months ago, we were involved with MAG, the Maricopa Association of Governments, the city of Scottsdale, to do a study on improvements to Pima Road from the Pima Cave Creek intersection down to Cinque Dados. Okay, so they came in, they actually met in here, some of you were there, and they got ideas from us. So the MAG hired consultants to go out and figure out what to do. They've done some work, and then they're going to come back and share what they have found, what they're going to recommend, and it's a public meeting, so we can go there and tell them what we think. We can hear them out and comment to it. So that'll take place on June 26th from 5 to 7 p.m. in the Holland Center. So the Holland Center is near the YMCA, so it's off of Carefree Highway, off of 60th Street. Easy to find, just Google it and you'll find it. But that's June 26th, 5 to 7 p.m., and it's well worth going to. Because you might remember at that intersection in December of 23, there was a motorcycle fatality. And we've had other accidents there. Not so much since then, but prior to then. So this is important to everyone who lives in our town, who drives that intersection, especially those who live in Velvet or Cactus Shadows and in Rolling Hills. It's really important. And the last item I have is, you might remember at the last couple of council meetings, we talked about the comprehensive fee schedule, right, adjusting those fees. So that goes into effect June 6th, so later this week. So if you want to do something, do it now. Okay.
Sign me up.
Any other current events? Okay, hearing none. We'll close current events. And we will move to item number 5. Review, discussion, and approval of the Town Center Facade Program. Mr. Propopek.
Mayor, Council, it's been a long time coming to address this particular program. It's one of the things that we've done, and actually the concept of a facade program or public involvement into the refurbishment, revitalization, and making the town center look better has actually been around since 1986, pretty much when the town was founded. In the first plan, they actually talked about the idea of revitalization and public-private partnerships. The idea in Arizona that public-private partnerships are very difficult mixing public funding with private property just due to the gift clause issues that we have. As it kind of went through the processes, we looked at we had the ASTAP study that was done in 2013 through the Urban Land Institute, and we did the Village Center Master Plan, which then became the Village Center Redevelopment Plan. The one nice thing about going through and one of the reasons why we did the redevelopment plan is that under redevelopment law, you don't have the gift clause issued. So doing a program where we can actually take public funding and apply it towards private properties now is something that we could look to do without running into that specific issue. And so that's when we started to embark on putting this particular program together. As staff, we went and did a process of looking at best practices around the state where these programs have been put together and where they've been successful. And so we took that best practices and then put a report together, put a program together, and started that through the Economic Development Advisory Board. And that actually started off I think we did it in February where we had the first presentation. From there, we took the comments from the Economic Development Advisory Board. We also went to business owners and property owners, as well as residents, and we took feedback and commentary. And so there was extensive commentary that came back over several months through the Economic Development Advisory Board and through the general public and property owners as well. And through that process, we ended up creating the program that's been put in front of you tonight. So it's been a long journey to get to here, but I just wanted to kind of give the background as to, why it wasn't really good and why it wouldn't work in the past and why it specifically is something we could do in this particular area here. And again, this just shows where the redevelopment area boundary is. And so the focus of this program is going to be inside the Village Center redevelopment plan. And just kind of run through it real fast. And then the program goals are to really encourage revitalization within this town center. And again, focused in on that area that is in the redevelopment plan, but even more specific, what we want to do is look at the increase in retail businesses and sales tax generation, create a really good functional mix of commercial within the area. And then, obviously functionality and safety. Again, we're trying to create a pedestrian environment. And so if there's ways that we can make the area look nicer, more cohesive, but at the same time, focus on those projects that can generate the types of revenues and the foot traffic that we'd like to see. Those are the things that we're going to be focusing on. Program eligibility, we had a lot of conversation about this, whether it was businesses or just property owners. And so we really just focused in on the property owners since they're the ones that own the physical properties themselves and really kind of have more of the say. So in some communities, they looked at maybe specific building facades or storefront facades in multi-tenant or areas where you'd only just do the facade for that particular business. And we didn't really want to go down that road to really focus more on more substantial changes to facilities that would look at the whole building as a whole. Eligibility for projects. And so the other side is there's multi-tenant and then single-tenant buildings. So some of the buildings here are owned by the operator, and some of the buildings are multi-tenant buildings, like a Los Portales or Mariachi Plaza. And so either one of those types of property owners would be eligible to apply. Each project can receive up to 15% of the total project cost with a maximum of $15,000 per project. The reason we did that is because when we looked at the total budget that we were looking to allocate towards this. We had a lot of conversation on that as well, and the idea was that this would be a pilot program. And so I think there was an idea of how do we put our toe into the water, how do we do something that's new and innovative that was never been done within Carefree before, but at the same time do something that has some kind of meaning and can be substantial. And so it's to focus in on these types of projects. And again, these aren't redevelopment projects. These are ways to just fix up and clean up, patch up, paint. That's really what it's focused on, to just really help revitalize maybe some tired looking buildings. The grant will be in the form of a reimbursement, so any project that comes through would actually have we'd identify what that project is, and they get paid on the backside once they've completed what their scope of work is, and that's been validated. Property owners can do a single project, or in certain cases where you have multi-tenant buildings, like say Mariachi Plaza, they can apply as a single applicant for multiple projects or multiple buildings at one time, or they can try to look in ways that they can treat each building separately. And so that was another conversation that we had, is how to deal with those versus the single tenants. And so it may be that, based on the types of funding that we have, they might just want to focus on a specific building now and maybe look at different buildings in the years. Because one of the things we did is you can only apply every 2 years for the grant. And so they're going to have to weigh out, what makes better sense for them to try to do a single project where they can get the grant now once, or try to piecemeal it down the road. And as we go through these application processes, we'll do that evaluation with these property owners to kind of make sure and see what makes the best sense for them as well as for the town. And then we also allow for properties to get together. So let's say somebody wants to work on a sidewalk on Easy Street, and we want to get cohesion of the sidewalk. All those property owners could come together, and we can combine the funding for them to be able to do a single project. And so that single project can be, so it'd be treated as 3 different projects if there are 3 different property owners. Any questions at this point? One thing we're going to be sticklers about, obviously, is making sure that there's permits and everything's done correctly on these projects, but those fees will be part of what can be reimbursed against the grant. And then just as a list of eligible improvements, not going to go read each one, you can read them. One of the things that did get added on at the last meeting, though, in one of the conversations and talking with some of the property owners, is pet stations. That a lot of the property owners were complaining about dogs, urinating on their buildings and so if there's ways that we could add pet stations into some of these private buildings, kind of like what we have in the gardens, it may help alleviate, so as people walk around, that there's designated areas, so it helps protect some of these buildings. And then we have the application review process. We discussed, is it going to be a rolling application process, or are we going to do this annually? And what we settled on is doing this quarterly. And so applicants will start, hopefully, if this program gets approved, we would start immediately as soon as the new budget year starts in July, and that would start with the first quarter of projects. And so we would take that first 3 months for submittals, and then at the end of that first quarter, we'd then make the selections for those projects. It could be that we spend all the money and we select all the projects in that first quarter. And then it'll be done through a committee, and that committee will consist of myself, the chief building official, the planning director, town administrator, the mayor, and then a designee from the planning commission EDAB member. And the one thing I might want to add in here, Mayor, if it's something that isn't the mayor, that maybe that the mayor can do a designee potentially, and we could add that into this program of a council member if you feel that there's somebody else that might want to be part of that, or if we wanted to add on a council member, that's something we could look to do as well. And then, when the applicants come in, not only will they'll have to provide a narrative as to how they meet the requirements of the program, as well as provide a scope of work, and then the project timelines. And that scope of work should have dollar amounts associated with everything. Again, looking at the evaluation criteria, it's going to be just looking at, does it make sense for the goals of the program? Looking at sales tax, I think it's pretty straightforward of how this evaluation will work. And I don't know if there's any questions on project completion. So when the project is completed, again, it'll be a reimbursement. And then what we'll do is we'll have an initial scope of work. we'll have an approved scope of work, and then we'll have the final scope of work. And then we'll evaluate to make sure that that scope of work has been completed. When the project's completed, the property owner then will have to provide proof of payment to all their vendors, and then we'll make the reimbursement. And then we'll go out and make sure that all the improvements were done the way they were supposed to be done. And that's it for the program.
Okay, well, thank you. So just a couple comments before we turn it over. One, I think it's a great program. It incentivizes our landlords to do some improvements. We may find that even if they're not selected, they may move forward anyway because they've already done a lot of homework and investigated it. What we hope will happen is that some of our buildings downtown will improve. They'll be able to charge more rent, be able to bring in different clients. So it could be a real mover for us. It's the first time we've ever used our money, government money, for private folks. And so there's a lot of, if you read through this, there's a lot of restrictions and limits. And so at the end of the day, it's an experiment. We'll see how it works. It might be successful beyond our dreams, or it may not be. And we'll just go from there. And I'd also like to thank the Planning and Zoning and the Economic Development Advisory Board. They did a great job. So there was workshops here, and they all got together a couple, 3 times, fleshed this out, because if you listen to the presentation, there's all kinds of different nuances to worry about. How many buildings do they own? How many tenants are in there? On and on and on. And they fleshed that out, and they did a great job. So thank you for that. So I think it's certainly worth doing. And I will say, I will be on the committee.
Okay, cool. And to that point, Mayor, the one thing I want to say is, like any, government program that you put together, the text is going to be pretty bureaucratic because you got to cover all your bases. We did have the attorneys review it, the program as well. But at the end of the day, some of these projects shouldn't be very complicated, especially if it's repainting, and just, it would be pretty reasonable as we walk through the process, and it shouldn't be that cumbersome and burdensome.
And I would say to the landlords, whoever's listening, we want this to be successful. So the requirements call out a pre-meeting, but we're happy to do pre-meetings. Just come and talk to us, understand how it works, and give it a try.
I already have property owners who are interested. So.
Okay, so having said all that, I'll turn it over to council and for questions and comments.
Well, I echo your comments. This is a project that is dear to my heart. I think the town core, the center of this town, is what Carefree is all about. So improving the property, I think, would make a big difference in attracting the best tenants. So I'd like to add more money to it if I could, and make the process as easy as possible, because I think it's going to go a long ways to improving the character.
I agree. I think that, and it shows that, the town's working with the property owners, and I think we all want our town center to look as it should. And so I think it's going to be a great relationship, and we'll see after the first quarter. If we need to make adjustments to it, then we can, but I'm looking forward to it.
Anything?
Yeah, on a couple things. One, I don't think it's enough for an incentive, because you're saying up to 30% of the scope, capped at 15,000. So it's 14,000 to paint a building. So if you're allowing 30%, is it going to incentivize the person to paint the building? I mean, I think you need to make it a bigger amount of money, or say you're going to give more, because, to have a landlord say, okay, you spend 100,000, but we're going to cap you, we're not going to give you the 30% because it's capped at 15. I mean, some of these buildings need serious money, so I'm just afraid it's going to be a Band-Aid. You're going to patch a little here, patch a little there, patch a little, because when you do the percentages, it's a very small amount. They're going to have to outlay a lot to get a little bit of money. So if they outlay 10,000, if they get 30%, they get 3,000. So they're still out 7,000. And some of them, to get them to give you, do something for 1,000, you've worked with them.
Yep.
It's not like they're running out saying, yeah, I mean, I think you need to find a way to, you know, maybe have a test project with a little more money or a little
Well-
higher percentage. And some of the paperwork they're gonna do, some of these landlords are just not that keen on doing a lot of
So,
paperwork.
yeah, but, so I hear what you're saying, and I think that for the initial try, but we'll see how it works. I mean, personally, I'm not so keen on using government money privately, but I understand the need, I get it.
Because the
And I
downtown is public, really, if you think about it.
Well,
I
per
mean, it's
the,
privately owned,
it's
but it
privately owned,
is
that's the
the
problem.
face of the town.
Yeah, it's the face of the town, so that's why we want to embark on this and see if we can incentivize landlords to make improvements when most of them don't. Maybe this is enough, maybe it's not enough. We'll find out through the applicants, how many we have, what are they applying for, the feedback they'll have. And admittedly, there's some bureaucracy here, there's paperwork, but we'll hold their hand and help them. Okay, and I get it,
Walk through.
we'll help them.
Mayor and Councilman Roth, I mean, I understand, and we actually had a lot of these conversations about how much to spend, how much to put in, and there were some people, hey, we should just start with 100 grand, and then there was, you know, but it's a conservative community, and this is the first time we're doing something like this, and so if you do look at, you know, somebody comes in with a $50,000 project, you know, $15,000 could be a significant chunk of that money. So I think, you know, for what we're trying to accomplish on the front end, I think it's a good project. And let's say somebody just wants to come in and do a paint job, and let's say it is 15 grand and they get 5 grand. That's still better than nothing. And so, and the line item and the bureaucracy is they put on their scope of work, paint, that's it. You know, so it's not like it's really cumbersome to go through all that process. And so that's kind of the conversations that we had. And you know, if it's wildly successful and we see that we're really leveraging some really good private investment, I think that's when we'll come back and we'll evaluate the process and see if we can expand upon the program. The other thing is if we do truly have redevelopment projects that we're looking at, we can always do those and look at them as separate redevelopment projects. And so this isn't meant to be that type of redevelopment where we're going to make significant changes. But if we do get into that scenario where somebody say they want to come in and redevelop a key building, then we would do that under a separate redevelopment agreement. And we have that capacity and capability. But then we would look at the returns on investment, and you know, like the RFP. If we're looking at an RFP for the town hall, that's something right there. We'll look at what our contribution is to all of that, if necessary, and how all that plays out. But we do have that capacity to do that as well.
But
Well,
you
the others
did, from the process of your very first draft, which went to some property owners, and you got feedback, made some adjustments, and then it came to planning and zoning and EDAB. And there was extensive discussion. It wasn't just Steve deciding that this was what it's gonna be.
I don't think
It was
any-
extensive discussion with in-town staff and with EDAB, and this is what the agreement was. To start out this way and see how it goes.
Well, the other thing is, you say must comply with all town code regulations, including building code, sign regulations, zoning, and permitting. What if they want to use the dollars to bring their building into compliance? Are you going to say no?
No, that's
Well,
actually
that's permitted, including ADA.
Yeah, we allowed that. So because some of us, we do want to get some of these buildings into compliance.
Well, you're saying eligible, they must comply, so you'd have to change that, because if they're out of compliance, they're not eligible. So
Yeah, so that would be part of some of the projects that we're looking at.
I would think you'd want to reword that, so you don't, if people are out of compliance, they might think, why should I apply? You're telling me I'm not eligible. So maybe,
Well, I think the intent is to use this money, if they wish, to become compliant.
yeah. I would
And so
hope.
we're not, and the work they do must be compliant with the law. So I don't think we would preclude them if they come to us and they're not compliant.
Correct.
For example, if someone is not ADA compliant today, we can use this money, if they make an application, we approve it, to become ADA compliant. If we said, oh, you can't apply because you're not ADA compliant, then like it would never happen. It would just go on forever in a big circle.
Yeah,
Well, that's
so,
why I said it says, you know, Part 3B they must comply, so,
Just for the projects, yeah.
I think
So
the project has
again,
to
we're going to
comply.
be,
Yeah.
a lot of this is going to be some finessing as we walk through this. Like, so if somebody doesn't have an ADA compliant bathroom inside, but they're doing a paint project on the outside, we're not going to force them to do the bathroom on the interior to become ADA compliant at that point.
And I would say-
Because there's a lot of there's just a lot of non-compliance in a town where you have older buildings that were brought in
yeah,
under
and
the
I
county.
would think this
Yep.
would be great to try and incentivize.
But if we can fix some of that stuff, we're
Yeah.
gonna do our best to do that.
Yeah, I think
Would be
there-
successful if we can.
I think there is a difference, though. Like, if we said you must be in compliance with all town codes, that I think would be saying, starting out, you must be in compliance. This seems to me to be open-ended, that you must comply through the process with
Right.
all.
Exactly.
And that's the intent.
Yeah.
Yep.
See, that's the-
But it's a good point, though, well, I think it's good to discuss it now, so everybody understands what the expectation is when we go through the process.
And I would just add that, so it's something new, and it's incumbent upon all of us to talk to landlords that we know, and if it passes tonight, to encourage them to participate. Walk them through it, talk to them.
Yeah.
Because it could really be a successful boost to the town center.
Yeah, and the money was budgeted, it's in the economic development budget, so it won't be budgeted out of the capital funding, it'll be budgeted out of the operational.
Okay, any other comments from the council? Are there any public comments? So hearing none. So we don't have a resolution associated with this, so I think what we'll
No.
do is we'll simply vote to approve the town center facade program as presented in agenda item number 5. Is that
Correct.
sufficient? So I would entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the final program for the town center facade program.
Second.
Okay, any other discussions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed unanimously, thank you. Okay. Great. Agenda item number 6, discussion and presentation of updates regarding Carefree Quarter. Mr.
Yeah.
Popopek,
Mayor and council, periodically, the council has requested that we, do an update onto where we are on the northeast corner with the Carefree Highway and Cave Creek Road, the project, the Carefree Corridor. And so we do have representatives here from the developer who can provide more of an update of what's going on specific to that project. But I will just say in general, there is the site plan and the elevations. If anybody hasn't seen them yet, they are on the website, and they're looking to be discussed and potentially approved through the Development Review Board on Monday, this following Monday. And so if anybody wants to take a look at that, they can take a look and provide commentary based on what they see. And so one of the things we're going to do tonight as part of this update is we're not going to get into the details of the site plan, because that is an agenda-sized item for the Development Review Board. And so generalized commentary, I just didn't want anybody to feel like that we're going to be getting into that kind of commentary tonight. And then hopefully they can provide us some update on what's going on from the business side of things, and just any kind of generalized conversation on the site itself.
okay, very good. So Scott, thank you for being here tonight. We're glad to have you. You're going to be back again on next Monday.
Yep.
But I think there's a lot of folks anxious to hear what's going on, both sitting up here and behind you.
Yeah, absolutely. Scott Hensey, Diversified Partners. We're the development partner for this Carefree Quarter. Been working on this for quite a while now. So I'm just going to give some general updates and then field any questions and answer anything that anyone has. So since we've got our development agreement signed with the town, we've been working on getting our site plan approved, our elevations approved, and trying to make as many tenant deals as possible. We have signed several leases. We've signed a Panera Bread lease, we've signed a Nothing Bundt Cakes lease, and we're nearing very close to signing a Whataburger lease. We have not yet signed any of the anchor deals that we're looking to achieve. We're working hard to get those, but the market overall over the last 4 or 5 months has been a little uncertain with some of the tariff issues that have gone up and down and roller coastered a bit. Certain costs from a construction standpoint have gone wildly up and down. Like I've had a subcontractor give me a 50% increase on wood costs, and then the next week he says, okay, there's no increase on wood costs. And we've had to have some subcontractors, we've terminated relationships with some because they're price gouging us a little bit, and you can buy things in America just fine. So we've been dealing with that on the tenant side of things. They've many tenants just paused a bit. You know, they still think Phoenix is probably one of, if not the best market in the country to do deals in. But they've had a little uncertainty and paused on some of their expansion plans to see how some of this shakes out. If you sell certain things from overseas that you get in, you're a little nervous about opening new brick and mortar stores. So we've been dealing with that and pushing hard to try to get some of these tenants to step up to the plate. We have not stopped on our designs for the center, so we're very close to having all of our offsites approved, how the access way is going to be, how the wash is going to be reworked. We have to do a bunch of work on utility lines, so the sewer provider, there's a lift station that has to be upgraded upstream from us, or downstream from us. I'd have to ask Sherry which one. Downstream from us, to handle that, the sewer that we're having. We're also competing with the center across the street, that's in the town of Cave Creek, and they're going through their process with their tenants, trying to get them as well. So it's a competitive environment right now. I would say that we're still very bullish on this site, and are doing everything we can to get it to the point where we can start construction. Even if we have to work from the outside in, do all the pads first and then move towards the anchor spots after, we're working to make that plan a reality if we have to. We prefer to do it all at once, do the anchors at once, but because of the development agreement, we're able to keep moving forward. If that development agreement didn't exist, we would have put this thing on ice. So it's good, and it's making everything move forward. And we like the way it looks. We've gone through a lot of back and forth with town staff on how to make this thing a good-looking, beautiful center. And it's starting to come into shape. So we're excited for what it's looking like and getting our hopeful approval next week on site plan and elevations. That'll let us keep moving forward and get to the point where we can start construction as soon as possible.
Okay, so I have a question just on that note.
Sure.
So assuming everything you're approved on Monday next, what's the next step?
Next step for us is starting our construction documents for all of our buildings. So the pads, the anchors that we want to go forward with, the shops that we want to go forward with. Construction document would be the next phase for us. And so that's our next step.
So how long does that take?
Usually 2 to 3 months of drafting and making, depends on the schedules. Summertime is always a lean time in Phoenix for the development world. Everyone travels everywhere right now. But usually 2 or 3 months for construction documents to get those in shape.
Okay, so you submit the construction documents, we review them, we redline them,
Yep.
send them back, you go back and forth, and then we would issue building permits. I suppose that's how it works?
Yep,
Okay.
correct. And so timing overall for us, it's probably a little behind our schedule that we were hoping, anticipating last year, because some of the issues that we've run into. And I'm not asking for any extra time on our development agreement now, but in the future, we're doing everything we can to make this thing a reality and make it a good center it helps the town, helps us, everyone can do well with it. So we don't need anything now. I'm not asking for anything currently, but in the future, depending on how timing's working out, we're going to stay in constant communication with council, with staff. And if we do need to request some extra time later on, we will, but we don't need anything now.
And there's 3 parcels here, A, B, and C. Parcel C is on Cave Creek Road, kind of across from Lowe's. So there's been talk that you have an interest in having that rezoned from office or whatever designated, whatever it
Correct.
is now,
So-
to commercial. So where does that stand?
That particular parcel, what we would ask for from the town is to remove one of the stipulations. So it's already zoned commercial from the last zoning that happened, I think, in 2018. But there's a stipulation that requires it to be office. And it was shown as a two-story office on the original zoning application that went through. Office is suffering right now with many people working from home. There's a large amount of office that's come on the market that's available. Office is not the thing that people are building right now, and it's not a big sales tax generator at all. So we would prefer that stipulation to be removed so we can do the other things that are allowed under the current zoning case. So we've talked to staff about it. What they're looking for from us is I believe they want to see a site plan of what we're going to do, and then they can tackle how to remove that stipulation. We would like to go through that process however it needs to take place. So we've had that discussion, but it hasn't moved to the next step yet.
Okay, and I also encourage you to engage with the community that's nearby.
Yes, for sure. We've had two meetings. We've had, I think, 2 meetings with the neighbors that are in that community right next door. We've sent them some information on some of our latest site plans, et cetera. So we will definitely be including them in all discussions. And I get emails periodically from some of the neighbors, like one at a time, and I don't mind that at all. And I encourage it. If anyone has any questions, we're always available to talk about what we have going on.
Oh, because it is a process that takes time, and the sooner you get started, the sooner the process will be over.
Yep.
Any other comments, questions? Go ahead.
Just a couple of quick questions, and you may not know one of these, but knowing that Cave Creek is also actively trying to get people signed. First question is, do you know if they have signed anybody? Second is, I know you guys had your convention last week, so I was kind of hoping you'd have really positive outcome there. What is your anticipated timing for additional signatures for our corner?
As far as across the street, I don't know who they have signed up. It's kind of a competitive spirit thing. You know, we're probably being a little more open than people mostly are, but, you know, that's how I am, so I will keep on doing that. They're great. The developer across the street, Evergreen, is a world-class developer. They're fantastic folks. And the particular project manager there is a really good guy. So I don't know where they're at signing up deals. But I will say for ours, we have several more leases that are already drafted in process that are continuing forward, going through the negotiation process. So we will continue signing deals for the next 6 months, 9 months. I'm hopeful. Our convention last week, the International Shopping Center Convention, is one of the big premier retail conventions in the world. And it's interesting to get a temperature from everyone on what they think of the world right now. And I would say overall, if you're sitting in Chicago, you're not too excited about building stuff. If you're in Phoenix, you are excited about building stuff. And there was a lot of positive energy about everything going on in Phoenix in the Valley. And people want to spend their dollars here. And we're seeing a lot of folks from around the country come here. So if I've been building restaurants on the East Coast, I'm looking for that next market, and Phoenix might be that next market because I know it's going to be good for a long time. So a lot of positivity. I was hoping to have a couple fun ones to talk about, getting them over the finish line, but unfortunately that didn't happen.
Scott, I have a quick question. Is it fair to say that you have been approached for anchor tenants that maybe aren't necessarily the best tenants for this particular project, and that your goal is to really make sure that you're going to be getting the types of quality tenants that you want to get in, especially those that generate sales tax that'll help trigger the incentives?
Yes, definitely. There's a bunch of tenants that have approached us that are willing to make great market deals, and they would pay me a lot of rent. But I know when I tell you guys that I'm signing a deal with them, you would be not happy with me. Certain discount stores or thrift stores that we're just not entertaining here. So yes, there's lots of, we're being particular about who we're going to put here because we, like the town, believe in this town and think it's a really unique place to do business. So we're not going to bring something that we wouldn't want to see as neighbors.
Good.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions and comments. On October 1st meeting, when Walt and you both spoke, time was of the essence, it had to be signed, you had to have the deal. You said you had the 70, Walt said it at 44 minute, 45 second mark, 75% ready to go as soon as they got the okay from us, which you got in November. You also said the minute you got the approval, it would be 90 to 100 days for construction documents. Now you're shortening it to 60 to 90. So is it 90 to 100 or 60 to 90 on construction documents?
So the second question, 60 to 90, 90 to 100, in our world, that is the same thing to us. These things take 2 or 3 years to get up and running. This one's moving like lightning compared to many other projects that we have that take 3 or 4 years to get out of the ground. So a matter of 10 or 20 or 30 days to us. Sometimes it's, super critical that we have something in a few days, but 2 to 3 months on when I'm talking to a vendor that's making all these construction documents for us, sometimes his subcontractor, his mechanical engineer or his structural engineer, especially right now, might be out of town for the month of July or might be out of town for, 2 or 3 weeks. So 2 to 3 months, it would be my general time frame on what CDs take to make. In most cases, if someone's super focused and they have nothing else to do, they could probably get it out in 35 days. But I would just say 90 days would probably be the best number. And then as far as the percentage of folks that were ready to go, we've probably received 20, 25, 30 letters of intent and offers on this project. And at that time, when we laid out where they would all go, we were probably over that 70%, 80%. And it takes a while to get them over the hump and signed. And once the certain dominoes fall, so once we have a certain anchor that goes, the next 2 anchors immediately follow. And some of the anchors have told us that, hey, as soon as they sign, we're in. And then as soon as they sign, another folk is in. So it's kind of a domino effect. But I would say that was accurate and probably still is accurate for all the offers we've received. But as we place them around, we can't have 6 burger joints, or we can't have 3 places that sell chicken. So we have to pick and choose of the groups that have offered. And like I said, the last 3 or 4 months of macro looking at the market, there's been a lot of hesitation in the market. So I would say that is partially to why we don't have 90% signed up today.
Yeah, but you both said as soon as you got the okay from us, which you got November, you would have them signed.
Yep.
So maybe better to under-promise, over-deliver than over-promise, under-deliver, because we're 8 months later and all you're bringing to us is Panera Bread, All About Bunt and Whataburger, which are not going to generate $700 a square foot, which a lot of the sales tax
Sure.
numbers,
And
revenues
I
are
appreciate
predicated
I
that.
appreciate the comments, but it's nothing bunt cakes, and they're like I don't know if you've had one of their
Looks
buntinis, but they're delicious.
I agree, but $700 a square foot's a lot of bun cakes. And the other thing is, are you looking at Jim's, which is a rumor, or a pickler? So that's not going to bring any money to us. Service does not help us. So what percentage of the 20 letters of intent that you were seriously looking at are service and not revenue generators?
I'd have to look at all of them to guesstimate that. I'd say 25, 30%
Are
service.
or service. So how many square feet are you looking at signing up out of your 20 people?
I'd have to go through and look at it. I don't know specifically
Well,
on
you're
the square
coming back
footages.
Monday, so you could bring the numbers to us.
Sure.
Because we're looking at this project to generate a significant amount of sales tax. And what you're presenting is not going to generate that. And if 30% is service, and you're already saying that
Yeah,
You know,
a center like this needs
and-
a good combination of both service and retail. Some things, you need service guys to go with the retail guys to make it a successful commercial center. So there will always be a bunch of both. And I don't know what the exact percentages will end up being. The development agreement itself already specifies how much needs to be one or the other and talks about it. So, you know, we know that the town wants sales tax revenue, and we're shooting for that, and we're incentivized to shoot for that, which is why the development agreement aligns us with the town, which makes it a win-win for everybody. So that's what we're striving to do. And if you have any suggestions for retailers that you think should be here or can suggest that they come over here, we'd love to have them. We'll sign them up.
Mayor and Councilmember Roth, one of the things, so when we did the original analysis and we looked at the sales tax projections, we actually built in the percentages of what the retail versus non-retail would be. So that was built into the original estimates that we did. So just so you know, when we did that, we didn't think 100% retail was going to be going in.
No, I've never
Yeah,
talked about
but I just wanted to
that.
let you, just so the public knows that, because
Yeah.
it's a good question, that's, we did look at it that way.
But I'm saying going forward, they're already shrinking the amount of space they're developing. You're talking about doing pads without buildings on them.
No, that's not what I said. I said we're going to start from the outside and go in rather than the inside and go out.
But how you're gonna go to a retailer, which I was my whole career, and say, I'll give you the outside, but understand, well, you're trying to run your business. We're gonna be doing a giant project on anchor stores. So I think some retailers would say, why am I gonna do that if I'm gonna be under construction? Because especially if you're doing their anchors after the smaller stores.
Sure, some could say that, but, you know, we do that every day of the week here in the valley on projects all over the place. You know, people develop at different times. You have folks building on a out parcel while the anchor's not there for 5 years. You have folks building on an out parcel while the anchor's been there for 10 years. You know, that happens every day of the week here. And, you know, it's market forces that we're dealing with, and we can't pick and choose exactly when everyone will build.
But you will have more names for us.
If I can say them, yes.
Well, I would think, you know, by now you should be, give us a hint, because we have been, this is gonna be the longest pregnancy known to mankind with producing that. So, you know, instead of, 9 months, it's gonna be, what, 29 months?
We are trying to deliver this baby for both the town and ourselves.
I
So
would think.
we are working towards that end and are continuing down that track, even though we've, run into issues.
Other comments from council? Okay. Well, thank you for coming. I really appreciate you coming. It was important for me that you be here, so thank you.
Sure, no problem. And I'm
Um,
always available to council, staff, anyone that wants to give me a buzz, just please do. And I can give you all the updates that I'm allowed to and am able to.
And you'll be back on Monday.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Scott.
Aye.
Do we have any public comment? Okay, please.
Hi, this is John Nimsky. And these comments do not reflect the fact that I'm on the Development Review Board and the Planning and Zoning Commission. So, and recognizing that we'll be reviewing this in that capacity on Monday. My general observation is as follows. This development was first, the town was first approached with this development, as already has been commented on multiple times, about 8, 9, 10 months ago. And I understand, because I've been involved in development processes before, what it takes to develop one of these, both from the standpoint of the initial permitting process, getting things lined up from a permitting standpoint, et cetera. But we were told early on, as a town, that there was a lot of demand for this site, that there were people basically very, very much interested in signing an agreement that says, I want to bring my product here or I want to bring my service here. And we've heard repeatedly that there are multiple letters of intent. And by the way, letters of intent are meaningless. But there were a lot of them, and it only took certain things to fall into place in order for those to become actual contracts. I'm still hearing that. And the fact of the matter is that because you have a Whataburger, which will be within 3 football fields of a McDonald's, you have a Panera, and you have the, I can't remember the name now, the bakery. That to me doesn't signify a whole lot of progress over 9-10 months. And the quote macroeconomy notwithstanding, that isn't keeping other developments in metropolitan Phoenix and moving ahead quite aggressively. And one of my concerns is because the southeast corner was used initially as a leverage for this town to move forward very rapidly. One of my concerns is that we may end up falling behind what's happening over there. Notwithstanding that, I think we are owed some kind of performance. There needs to be a point in time where this developer performs. And putting a chain link fence around half of the property, not even the full property, is not performance. Telling us that there are letters of intent in place is not performance. One of the questions that I have is exactly what is the marketing approach that they are undertaking in generating legitimate tenants? So I would ask that we get that information, not just in terms of a general process saying we're marketing, but a fairly detailed explanation of how they go about contacting these various businesses. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So maybe you could just talk briefly about the marketing approach that you use. I think what John's asking for is a lot more detail, but just give us kind of a high elevation view of this.
Yeah, so we have a brokerage company that's part of our development company. There's 15 agents in there, and we have a team that's on this site. It's led by a gal named Marty Weinstein, who I think has talked before at some of these things. She has a multi-pronged approach, lots of internet advertising on the different listing services like CoStar that a lot of people in the commercial development world use to find sites like this. And then we have relationships with hundreds of tenants that we leverage on a daily basis. And all of those meetings, in-person meetings, site visits, are happening constantly. So there's a huge monumental effort to get this thing leased up. My leasing team could speak more to that, but I agree. And I don't disagree about the LOIs. It's frustrating. It's frustrating to me too. If I could have it 100% done, I would. Unfortunately, when you need it to be fully executed, I think we'll get there on this whole project in general. But it's just taken more time than we had initially anticipated.
Okay, great, thanks. Ms. Janet Vivas? So please, we have a limit of about 3 minutes, so please.
Okay. Can you hear me? I couldn't hear John very well, so. Mayor, Council, Janet Vivas, Carefree resident. I've been looking forward to the renderings of the corridor, but these present an ordinary strip mall disregarding our extreme climate. Many building frontages appear to lack deep structural eaves for shade to encourage walking from one shop to another. Additionally, what is the purpose of the elevated circular walking seating area at the Carefree and Cave Creek corner that looks like a bus stop? Will anyone enjoy sitting there in the sun with the traffic whizzing by? Maybe it's a spot for a monument art piece or to hide utilities. If not, it's a wasted space. The huge central parking lot is an asphalt heat island showing disproportionately small plants consisting of 24-inch box Palo Verdes and 5-gallon shrubs. This greenery will not reach shade height for at least 10 years. The landscaping should be mature from the start, including palms, cacti, and trees, as a welcome extension of the carefree gardens we're so proud of. The quarter should look different from the surrounding strip malls. Based on the number of parking spaces, planners are expecting large crowds with shops to draw them in. We were initially led to believe Trader Joe's was a strong possibility, but we know that isn't going to happen. So far, the shops that have signed on do not include any quality chain or independent retailers. Let's consider our namesake, the Scottsdale Quarter, built with the desert environment in mind. Misters on every street, a courtyard with queen and fan palms, and a water feature that attracts shoppers in every season. The Carefree Quarter's designers should plan more shade modifications to provide cover for and entice shoppers. We all want this project to finally break ground and be successful, but for the Carefree Quarter to be successful, the design needs improvement. It really does. Thank you.
Okay, so I would just suggest your comments, share them with the Development Review Board next Monday.
Okay.
Welcome to come back and speak and say the same. Or,
I'm just afraid it would be too late. I want to get these out here
Okay,
now
no,
before
it's
the
okay.
planning.
You said
Yeah.
it, they can listen to it, but they're
Yes.
the body that's going to be reviewing.
All right,
this.
I'll be back for sure. Thank you.
Ms. Jan Neal.
Good evening, Mayor and Town Council. I've attended pretty much every meeting since that October, November. I know I was a little bit excited when I heard about the plans. And boy, we really got a good sell job there. Here we are so many months later. As a resident, I feel like we were misled. Talk is cheap, and I believe there's a credibility issue at this point. Promises were made, the carrot was hung in front of us, we were all ready to bite, and here we are. Whataburger? I've never been to a Whataburger. I've been to a lot of the other fast food. I wouldn't go to a Whataburger. The list of retailers you've signed is abysmal. We don't have an anchor. Maybe that's the problem. If there is no anchor, I have never been a retailer, but looking at it from the outside in, if I was looking for a strip mall, I'd want to know who the anchor is. Maybe that's the problem. At this point, I really wish we could drop the name Carefree from the name of the shopping center, because I don't think it's going to represent us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay. We have no other comments, so we'll close the public comment. So before we close this item, any other comments from the council?
Yeah, I agree that I'd love to see it called the Shops at Black Mountain. I don't think it helps us or helps them in their selling to call it Carefree Quarter, because it will be compared to Scottsdale Quarter. It's right down the road. So let's be unique. Why are we calling it that? Why not the Shops at Black Mountain? Be something different.
One thing I would just say is, I love Scottsdale Quarter. I love Kierland. That corner is not Scottsdale Quarter, and it's not Kierland. Now, it is not the high end. It is not the low end. It is somewhere in the middle. And I think that's what we need to develop. I agree that I would love to see more mature landscaping, and I love that you actually have landscaping screens on the back side of the buildings as well. So I think that softens it from that's what you're going to see when you drive. So more mature landscaping would be great. The circular thing, yes, there will be art on that. It's not to sit on. I like the Corten steel. There's a lot of things that you've done that I like, and the differentiation of in and out and up and down, I like. So I think if it's built, and it's built the right way along with planning and everything else, it's going to look better than all other three corners. I just look, and I'm anxious to see really good businesses go in there and have a successful shopping center.
So I agree about the name, the Shops at Black Mountain. Scottsdale Quarter has a different tenant mix. You know, this building isn't trying to attract the tenants that you have at Scottsdale Quarter or Kierland. It's a different ballgame. So if we call it Scottsdale Quarter, there's expectations that won't be met, in my opinion. Yeah, Carefree Quarter. So, you know, it's a different kind of tenant that's going to occupy this building. I think that the design is pretty good for what this kind of center requires. It requires parking that is highly visible from the street. The landscaping, I think, is 24-inch box and 5-gallon shrubs is typical for this kind of a project. To upgrade the size would be considerable dough. So when you look at the economics, we're in a relatively good place. But I agree with the shops at Black Mountain.
One thing I would say is that this corner, even though it's Carefree property, has a much more diverse demographic than our town center. So we are not trying to appeal particularly to Carefree residents here. We're trying to appeal to a much broader audience. And for some of the names mentioned, I think those appeal to a much broader audience than just Carefree residents. And that's what we're trying to do. We want people to stop to get that bun cake on the way home and shop at other places. And in regards to a fitness center, that drives a lot of foot traffic. So when people go to the fitness center, if there is going to be one, you know, then where do they go next? So I think that provides a lot of foot traffic and convenience for people.
So Scott, is a fitness type place still on your radar, or?
Yes.
Okay. No, it was originally, so it's still there.
Yeah, a couple, actually. Not two, but a couple different.
Right, okay. Okay, any other comments? So I would suggest that we all go to the Monday evening Development Review Board meeting
It's a 4 o'clock,
at 4 o'clock.
I believe, yep.
Okay, 4 o'clock. And let's express yourselves, send some correspondence in beforehand so they have a chance to think about what's on your mind. And they'll review it. The diversity folks will be there, and it'll be a good meeting. Okay, so that closes this agenda item. Next agenda item is call to the public. Do we have any slips? I do not have any. So that closes call to the public.
I'm sorry, I didn't bring it.
Oh, okay, we reopen call to the public.
Wrapped up in the presentation. I'll bring it back. I don't want to walk now.
Yeah, okay, so you guys bring it back.
Mayor Crane, members of the council, staff, residents with us, and those in the ether. John Trainer, Carefree resident, 25 years. I actually will start off with a comment about the prior subject. I heard Whataburger. I heard Councilmember Colleen say that she likes Scottsdale Quarter and Kierland. I do too. I have never seen a Whataburger or anything resembling a Whataburger in either of those places. I think it's a travesty to call this thing Carefree anything. I don't know about any other name, but calling it Carefree Quarter gives people an expectation of what they will find. I don't think those people from elsewhere expect to find Whataburger. I'm sorry. Anyway, my original point for being here is last time at Call to the Public, I brought up a couple of issues that I really believed were wrong. And a month later, I still believe those issues are wrong. I have communicated with the town administrator, hearing nothing for several weeks after that meeting. I wrote a note to clarify some points. I got back a week later, a very interesting note that I will publish. And I will tell you that my tone has nothing to do with right or wrong. My tone, the facts were, things were wrong, things were not addressed. Things have now been addressed because of outside pressure, not because anybody was doing the right thing. There were things that were wrong, there are still things that are wrong. And I will address those again, and I will do it publicly. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, John. So that closes call to the public. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, opposed? Passed unanimously. Thank you. Thank you all for coming.
Young lady?